Many years ago, there were these two sisters, I'm pretty sure they were sisters, Ann Landers and Dear Abby. And they made their living by dishing out advice to people every day in the newspapers. And other people would read this, millions of people. Not so much, I don't think, for the advice, as to reassure themselves that other people were at least as fucked up as they were, and maybe more so. I think it's kind of amazing that someone would grow up to be a professional advice dispenser without formal training, and for two sisters to do it, and to be so successful at it, that's remarkable. Maybe it was in their genes. I wonder how often they got together and if there was any rivalry there about who was giving the better advice. And did they ever give advice to each other? I mention this because I usually don't give advice, but now I'm going to do it. You know how they have weather advisories when a storm is coming? Okay, this is going to be a news advisory. I'm going to advise everyone to avoid the news. Don't watch the news on TV. Don't listen to the news on the radio. Don't read any news in the newspapers or magazines. Completely ignore the news. That's my advice. You might think that's crazy advice, and maybe it is. You might want to be what is called a well-informed citizen. You want to know what's happening, what's going on. That's understandable, possibly commendable, but I urge you to overcome that popular temptation to want to be in the know, as they say. Instead, pay no attention to the news. Be scrupulous about it. It isn't easy to do because the news is everywhere. Never before has the news been collected and delivered so swiftly and comprehensively. All the more reason to avoid it. Does the news create news? Sure it does. People do things all the time because they know it will make the news. All the more reason to avoid it. It won't be easy. You'll be like a junkie trying to kick their habit. You'll feel shaky and apprehensive. You'll want to know what's going on. You won't want to feel like you're out of the loop. Take it easy. Forget the loop. You'll be all right. In fact, I think you'll be better, because almost all the news is toxic in one way or another. It's one person shitting on another, or a nation shitting on another. When you consider it very carefully, the news is full of shit. It's a great big pile of shit. They get pretty airheads and handsome hairstyles to report it, so it won't seem so shitty, but it's still shit. A half-hour news program is like a huge barge sliding by, loaded down with garbage. You don't want to have anything to do with that. You want to keep your distance. They've got a half hour of local shit, and then a half hour of national and world shit. That's a lot of bad shit, and all that shit can mess you up. What it comes down to is your sanity, and you have to protect your sanity. And the news is a real threat to that. What does it mean to be sane? Sanity is clearly related to the word sanitation. And what sanitation is all about is keeping the good stuff completely separate from the bad stuff. Because the bad stuff is poisonous. It's toxic. And if you started eating or drinking or breathing stuff that is even partially tinged with waste products, you could become ill or die. Proper sanitation keeps you healthy. And germs, bacteria, viruses, they have their mental equivalents too. And the news is full of them. Those pretty TV anchors should be wearing hazmat suits. As you guard your physical health, employing careful sanitation, so you must guard your mental health, your sanity. You don't want to threaten your sanity with bad stuff, and the news is nothing but bad stuff. The news is troublesome bullshit, and if you tune into that on a regular basis, exposing your mind to it, don't be surprised if your sanity begins to suffer. So that's my advice to you. Wean yourself from the news as quickly and completely as you can. Avoid it. Your mind will be stronger and your physical health will also improve. Much less worry and stress. And you can relax. It's not like you'll be missing out on anything. You know what's in the news. It's the same old shit. It's people behaving horribly, doing terrible things to one another, possibly because they were hooked on the news and it drove them crazy. They kept listening to that shit, and pretty soon they were one of the nut jobs that you hear about all the time on the news. Protect your sanity. Otherwise, you'll find that you're unable to direct your own life, and you'll wind up asking other people how to do it. You'll be like those poor saps who rode into Ann Landers and Dear Abby. You'll need some advice, and my advice on that is to avoid that, too.